Welcome to August's edition of Beyond the Brushstrokes. This is the window design that you can create with the stencils that I sent you. Feel free to switch up the colors and layout and really make this your own. So one thing that's not filmed in this video is the background. I just used a light peach to do just a wavy line along the bottom of the window to give us that desert ground. And I kept it very streaky just, to give it texture, but also because we're gonna put so much on top of it, you won't even notice that. So the first step is to tape your stencil to the window wherever you wanna start, and then really just go slowly when you're drawing against the stencil. Try not to push too hard or you might get some bleed out along the edges. So you can see I'm going pretty slowly with that, and then you'll fill it in. So I am starting with a light green for the cactus. Then you'll do the same thing with the smaller cactus. Again, just pressing very lightly against the edges. You could also do this with a brush or sponge it in, but I do find that there's a lot more bleed out doing that than using an acrylic marker. So for the details, I used a slightly darker turquoise, and I did these lines going down from the middle of the cactus first, and then I outlined each arm, just following the curve of the cactus. These don't need to be perfect at all. In fact, if they're a little wavy, it actually makes it look more realistic. So when you're doing each arm, you just want to start with the center first and then do the lines going out from the center on either side. This really helps to make it line up and give it more of a rounded shape. So again, the easiest thing to do is start from the center of that arm and then alternate doing lines on either side of it to fill it in. And then starting in the center on the big part of the cactus, followed by lines on either side. Then I switched over to this light green, and I'm just adding streaks of it all over the cactus, so I focus it more on the top of it and the top of the arms. The highlights don't go all the way down to the bottom, so you just want to think of this in terms of, like the sun is overhead, so the light is just hitting it more at the top. Then for the shadows, I added some of a darker blue, kind of opposite of where I put that lighter green. So I put it more towards the bottom, reaching up towards the top of the cactus, and then on the bottom part of the arms. And then the last color that I ended up adding is a yellow, a very bright yellow, and this is a lot less than like green. This is gonna be like your lightest highlight, and it really just makes the cactus pop. And then you'll gently peel it off to reveal how awesome your stencil turned out. Then repeat these steps. So you just want to arrange these in different areas. So you want to make sure that you place the stencil up higher and lower on the ground that we painted in. So don't just put it all at the top. That's just going to look awkward. So you want to do some towards the top of those hills, some towards the bottom of the window. You can see this one, I didn't even use both of them. I just used the smaller ones. And you also don't have to trace around all of the arms. So on the one that has 3 arms, you could just trace around 2 of them. Or you don't have to trace around any of them at all. It could be a cactus with no arms. And ignore the bottom of these. I am going to fix that with some bushes. So don't just draw the 2 side by side all over your landscape, otherwise that's not going to look very realistic and it's not going to look as nice. You want to mix them up, so mix up doing 1 here, 1 there, 2 there, just different things. And you can see here that I only traced 2 of the arms. Now, full disclosure, I did not end up making this stencil and sending it because as I was doing it, I felt like the lines of these barrel cactus were a little bit too skinny. So I ended up mixing that one, but I will still tell you how to do this. So pretend that the stencil isn't there. You just want to draw these oval-like shapes wherever you'd like in your landscape and fill them in with this lime green. Then to do the flower on top, it's really just like a zigzaggedy line that kind of connects to the top of that shorter barrel cactus. Now all you would do, again, these would just be filled in solid, so you'll do the same thing that you did for the saguaros. So you'll start with a center line down the middle and then work your way out to the edges with these lines. And what I'm doing right here is just adding some shadow, so I'm just adding some streaks going up from the bottom and then reaching down from the top. And it really just gives it some texture, and I promise this is super easy. You won't even miss having this stencil in here, but I felt like it was necessary to still give you a tutorial for these cactus since it's still in the design. Then I added a little bit of light yellow for some highlighting. So these streaks are just kind of going all over the place. It's really, again, just to give it some texture. And then some dark blue for those darker shadows. You can see how it really does make them a little bit more three-dimensional and give it some contrast. Next you have these agaves, so I would fill these in with a light turquoise, and then to give them some shadows and highlights, I ended up just adding some streaks of dark blue and purple. And it's important to add those streaks really in between those leaves because you want it to look a little bit more separated. And then I added a little bit of yellow highlighting right at the ends of the leaves. Just like the last stencil, you really want to mix up where you place these. Don't just place them all in the same spot. Put them in between the cactus. They can even be overlapping some of them. And you can see here with this one that I did not use both of them at the same time because, again, you don't want to use them both at the same time. It'll look really forced. So now, after you've added in all of your stencils, you're going to add some texture to the ground. So I just did a bunch of streaks of orange, kind of to act as shadows, but also just give texture to it, make it a little bit less boring, and then you won't notice the streaks of the paint as much. And then also that lime green and some pink. So these are just, a mixture of different streaks. Some of them are long, they kind of go around the curves. Some of them are right underneath the cactus, so it's really just to give it a little bit more color, to make it pop, and to give it some texture. And then the last step is to add these sort of little bushes at the bottoms of some of the cactus as well as on the hills. So if you have any areas like you see with these two stencils where maybe it's not touching the ground fully, you can use that to cover it up. I just mix them in all over the place. So I use that really light lime green and a light turquoise for that. It also just acts as, like little blades of grass, so they don't all have to be bushes. Some of them just be a few little streaks on the ground to look like grass and weeds growing. Again, this adds texture. It just makes it more visually interesting and more finished. And you don't have to do this design on your window. Again, you can do this wherever you would like. It can be on your mirror, your window, your door. You could even do this just on a canvas and use the stencils. So really make it your own, and don't forget to tag me in any of your videos. I would love to repost any videos and pictures of these mirror and window designs that you guys have made. Thanks for watching, and if you're somebody totally new that just randomly watched this video, please join my snail mail club. You get custom stencils and a tutorial of how to make these awesome window designs at home. See you next time!